Everyone, we're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. It's 6:32. We're going to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Trumpman.
Here.
Vice Mayor Johnson Sardella.
Here.
Commissioner Bill.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Commissioner Tudor.
Here.
Everyone's here.
Stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As a reminder to the audience, we have public comments related to agenda items. There are 3 agenda items here for ordinances, but you will get a chance to speak prior to each one. I'll go ahead and open it for public comments. Are there any public comments? And there are none. Madam Clerk, I'm looking the wrong way. Could you go ahead and introduce the final reading for ordinance 2017-03?
Ordinance 2017-03, an ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, establishing the 2017-2018 millage rate at 9.70 mils for each 1,000 of assessed valuation upon real and personal property within the village limits of the Village of Biscayne Park, provided for and effective of today's date.
Open up for discussion.
I'd like to make a motion. Make a motion to approve ordinance 2017-3, setting the millage at 9.7 mil.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those roll call, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
Commissioner Tudor.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Commissioner Bill.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson Sardella.
Yes.
Mayor Trumpman.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Madam Clerk, 5B, ordinance 2017-04.
An ordinance of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, adopting a budget for the fiscal year 2017-2018 for the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, provided for the conflicts, providing for severability, providing for and the effective date of today.
Open for discussion.
We've thoroughly gone through the budget, so I'm not sure that there's much to talk about, but I do take issue with having the excess revenue over expenses just hanging out there without being earmarked for something. It may not technically be improper, but I think that it's only fair to tell the taxpayers how we intend to use the revenues that we collect. So I propose that we either put it in contingency. We know we're going to have all of these after-storm expenses, maybe earmark it for that. Whatever the majority agrees to earmark it for, I just don't want to have it hanging out there without a designation.
Okay. Further discussion?
No, we can put it into contingency. I don't think there's an issue with it, and we can still decide what we do with it later on. Am I correct?
Village Manager, did you have a comment on that?
No, we can certainly do that. I believe historically we've just left it as a fund balance, but I mean it's whatever the commission would like to do. We're happy to do with on this. Beatrice, do you have any comments? Or
well, the only issue is that if you make it a contingency, that's an expense line item. That's not putting it away. Commissioner Ross actually sent a copy of the fund balance policy. Thank you. I would suggest that we assign it, so it's an assigned fund balance for $200,000. I wouldn't necessarily add hurricane to that wording, though, only because keep in mind that when we had initially talked about this budget and that we would have excess revenues from the property values increasing, we thought, this is a good thing that maybe we want to put aside for next year when the homestead exemption goes through, because don't forget we're going to hit an approximately $272,000 we're going to take a hit in our property ad valorem revenues. So I think we should assign it, or just as a suggestion, we assign it as a fund balance for first priority hurricane emergency debris removal, any out-of-pocket that we're going to have to come up with, and then the balance, maybe, we leave it towards the possible shortfall of next year's budget?
I have a question. If we just, taking the corollary effect, if we don't assign it specifically to something,
It's just unassigned, and according to your fund balance, or your fund balance policy, it says that they're just amounts that are not classified. And the assigned means that you are assigning it for a specific purpose. So you're actually giving it a purpose when you assign it,
Right,
as opposed to,
if
right
we-
now, your fund balance is unassigned.
if we unassign it, and if we come back, we may have to come back and amend anyway because we don't know what's going on with A, our overall fiscal status, and B, we don't know the extent of the hurricane debris removal coverage that we'll have. Is there any downside to leaving it unassigned until we know what we're assigning it to? I think the problem I'm having is having, we may end up having it mostly picked up. We don't know yet. And so part of my problem is what to do, and the answer is I don't know yet to do with it, so I'm hesitant to assign it to something.
Well, the good thing about assigning it is that you don't have to pass any formal action. That would be committed. When the funds are committed, you have to take formal action, whether it's a resolution or an ordinance, and take a vote. By assigning it, you can come back at the next commission meeting and say, we're going to unassign a portion or reassign it to something else, to another purpose. You have more flexibility about moving it around.
By assigning it first. Okay,
Yes,
so there's
by
enough
assigning-
side to assigning it.
Yes, I think so. Just so that we do what Commissioner Ross said and let the taxpayers know that we're actually putting it away for a purpose.
Can we assign it to a contingency fund without assigning the purpose for that contingency?
I think we can assign it to sit in a special bank account, like an emergency reserve account, or where the funds aren't easily accessible. It's not part of our operating fund, basically, breaking that piece out so that it's sitting somewhere else where, we would, anytime that we would use it, we would come to council and say, okay, here's the cost of the debris removal. It's X dollars.
Okay.
We're going to withdraw that amount from the bank account.
I like that idea because that way it's not there on general funds and it's
Right, where it gets
specifically-
commingled.
Right,
and-
commingled.
So what exactly would the wording be? We assign it to,
I think that would be up to commission to decide how you want to word it, whether you want to do, if you just want to assign the $205,000 excess revenue to, right now, we could say, for emergency management purposes, and then a month from now, or at your next commission, once we know that number is what that is, we can move the balance and rename it something else.
Like we can then put it into reserves or so forth, because I know Commissioner
Right.
Ross last time had talked about putting 50,000 reserves. I would like to see whatever we're not having to spend being put into reserves.
Correct.
Of course, and this is the exact example of why we have reserves, is to spend it for emergency management purposes. So I'm not opposed to that.
Right, and it's something that, because it's only a portion, and you do have other fund balance figures, maybe we keep this 200,000 whole, or we replenish it after the next, say your debris removal's $50,000, we replenish the 50,000 from the unassigned fund balance, and then you just keep building an emergency reserve in future years.
I like that
do
idea.
we need to do something, or can you just,
I would guess that it wouldn't be a bad idea to have it on the record.
okay.
You'd have to go ahead and place it as part of your motion. But I need to take you one step back. When we went ahead and did the millage, we didn't open up for public comment for the millage. So if we could please take one step back, open up for public comment for the millage, not the village, the millage, and then move it forth to the budget. Sorry.
Okay, my apologies for that. That is correct. Is there any public comments associated with the millage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Real quick. Chuck Ross, 1166 Griffin Boulevard. Since you're talking about contingency, just assign it to contingency and don't make it too complicated. Done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ross. Okay.
We're going to open public comment again after you guys make your discussion on the budget.
Thank you so much. So, to piggyback on the comment that was made, if we assign it to a contingency, Is there a difference between assigning to contingency or emergency management? Is there a differential there?
No, if you assigned it to contingency, in effect, it would just be growing your expenses by $200,000.
I think I like the idea of an emergency management piece, so this way it's a little bit more restricted, personally.
Right. And it doesn't show as an expense.
Right.
Okay.
So then we would, in our financials, show a separate fund within the general fund for emergency management.
A separate
category.
line item with a bank account that would be called emergency management reserves.
Yeah, I'm not so concerned about having it sit in a separate account, just like
Okay.
sit and other funds sit in the one account. But to have a separate accounting of it.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't actually sit in a separate account, it's
Well,
just a separate accounting, right?
The idea, the good idea about keeping it in a separate bank account is that it could probably be a money market or something that that grows a little faster, earns a little more interest than our operating account, because it doesn't, our operating account is based on transactions and number of transactions, and there's some fees involved, while a money market, because you don't access it, even something like a CD, a certificate of deposit, or something like that, where after hurricane season, say December 1st, we can roll it into something like a 6-month term or something along those lines.
We
And
do have
just
some-
an idea.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Commissioners.
We do have some money sitting in a separate,
You do,
That's what I was gonna-
$400,000.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not, I was trying to figure out how that account was set up or what it was designated for. And even though we call it our emergency reserves, that's not what the account is called. So I'm not really sure why, because it's just a regular public funds checking account.
So, on that, you actually anticipated my question, is if we have the 400 sitting there and we add the 200 to it, but I don't know if we can technically, because of the item that we're discussing here, which is merely what to do with the extra 200 for this budget, but I would like to see that all in one fund, and that being used exactly like you
And-
talked about, a 6-month CD, then pull back out and things like that.
So those funds were set aside to be put into an account that would earn more interest than a regular
that what-
checking account. And that was the whole purpose of it,
Right.
was to try to use that money to make it work for us, rather than sit commingled with everything else and just do nothing.
Right, because right now it's really not doing anything. And when we come to you with our proposals from the different banks, you'll see that they've actually set up, they've looked at our accounts and how the activity in it, and they've recommended what limits we keep in our operating account just based on our day-to-day transactions, and what they would, put aside in a money market or even a sweep account. So, just make our money work for us a little harder.
So, if there's consensus, and I'm going to ask, is there consensus among the commission to take the 400 and the 200 and use that together as like an emergency management type fund? Is there a consensus on that?
Well, I think,
Like a reserve account, essentially, a designated reserve account.
I think that for that sort of policy, we'll wait to see what makes sense, to wait to see what the different banks making offers or recommending for us. And so today, we just need to worry about the 200,
Yeah.
how we want
I
to
would
label
feel-
it.
I agree. I would feel better that we just make a resolution that the $200,000 is put in an account for emergencies.
And we can later amend that to add
Right.
the 400. That's fine.
Right, yeah,
I have no
okay.
problem with that. So do we have a direction to that effect? Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we put the $205,000.
Wait, hold on one second. You need to open up for public comment for your budget.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Before the motion on that particular piece? Okay. Open for public comments. I thought it was after, sorry. Open for public comments? No public comments? Is there a close the floor for public comments? Is there a motion on the floor regarding the 200?
I make a
plus
motion
thousand?
that we put the $205,000 into a separate emergency account. Is that
A
correct?
separate account or a separate fund?
Recommendation?
Fund or account? or-
Fund, I think
In a
fund.
separate fund.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No, it's a roll call vote because it's an
just an
ordinance.
amendment.
This isn't the ordinance. This is just a discussion. That's okay. I make mistakes too. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Is there any further discussion on the contents of the ordinance?
If I may, request that we open up the public comment again for the resident that just came in who...
No problem. Doc, do you have any comments on the budget at all? We were just opening up the public comments. We will happy to reopen up if you have any comments about the budget. Yes, please.
Doc Morris, 734 Northeast 119th Street. I just want to compliment all of you for the wonderful job you've done. I was the Commissioner of Public Works way back in time, and I remember what it was like to have piles of trees sitting over in that area. And I think to have Grubbs come in here the very next day was absolutely phenomenal. They're doing a great job. I'd like to compliment all of you, and the manager, too.
Thank you, Doc. Okay.
So if I can make a motion to approve the ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
Setting our budget as amended?
Is there a second?
I second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Bill?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Johnson Sardella?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Commissioner Tudor?
Yes.
Mayor Trumpman?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
The next item is a Resolution 2017-49. Madam Clerk.
A resolution of the Village Commission of the Village of Biscayne Park, Florida, ratifying the donation of $2,500 for fiscal year 2016-2017 to the North Miami Foundation for the Senior Citizen Services, Inc., provided for an effective date today.
Do you want to open a public comments to that? I know it's not an ordinance, but...
No, it's a resolution.
So, okay. All right, any discussion on this item? I know we discussed it, we kind of voted for it last time.
This is not a duplication that was passed previously?
No, I believe that we just had to formalize it in a resolution. And,
Well, I mean, we did, but what about the last commission? Did they pass this
No.
previously at the last budget? Ross, did they do?
It was approved at the budget, just as we've approved a line item in the budget for the next fiscal. But pursuant to our charter, any charitable donation has to be approved by resolution by a majority. I think maybe even a supermajority of the commission.
I think it is a supermajority.
And the last commission didn't pass that as such.
It was earmarked in the budget, but
Was
not
that ever did?
passed.
Okay.
So I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2017-49.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Announcements, Madam Clerk?
On Monday, October 2nd, our planning and zoning board will be meeting at 6:30. By the way, it's my birthday. In addition to that, our next commission meeting will be on Tuesday, October 3rd at 7 p.m.
Happy
Good night,
birthday.
everyone.
And on that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
We'll make a
Second.
motion to adjourn.
Okay. We are adjourned.
All in favor? Thank you.
We got the second before we got the first.
You missed all the exciting portions of this.
I came ordered this especially saying that.
I made the
I was